Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Thanks for tuning in to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Hey there, I'm your host, Kayla Moeller. Did everybody have a nice Easter? A nice lonely Easter, I should say. I'm lucky to be home with my family. We made a nice meal, some ribs and carrots and baked potatoes. And my cousin Sammy made a really awesome gluten-free cake, which was absolutely delicious. And we ate all of the leftover buttercream frosting. Kind of made my tummy hurt. And I had some leftovers today too. But I will admit that things were a lot more different than usual. Usually me and my brothers will have like a friend over or something. Like last year I had my friend Lindsay over, and my grandparents came, and we did all this stuff, but this time it was definitely a bit quieter. Last year, I came home from my backpacking trip in Southeast Asia with Lindsay, and that's why she was here. We had just come home super quick to repack our stuff and head back out to backpack in Europe because Asia was like really hot, so we brought basically just bathing suits and shorts, but Europe was going to be much colder, so we came home to repack more suitable clothes. And it happened to be during Easter, so it worked out. And we came home because, you know, my mom's a flight attendant, so I fly for free, and then my mom put her on her buddy passes, and she flew for free, so that's why we were able to just hop back and forth like that. Yeah, but it was a nice little day overall. This year's Easter was. I even woke up, showered, and I put on mascara. Can you believe that? I put on mascara. And I didn't even wear full-on pajamas. I just wore half pajamas. So I saw stuff on Twitter about reversing the roles this year for egg hunts. So instead of parents hiding the eggs, this year, a lot of the kids took on that job and made an egg hunt for their parents. How cute is that? So inside the house, and just out in the yard, of course, it wasn't out in the community, these kids would go around and hide all the eggs, and they were making it super, super, super hard for the parents to find. It was hilarious. The parents probably are going to be finding eggs for the next couple of weeks. And I also read how in one neighborhood, someone bought a chocolate egg for each neighbor and put their name on it and hid it somewhere in their front yard for each neighbor to find. And I thought that was like a really simple yet very thoughtful thing to do. And there's this whole trend on Twitter of people posting photos of their pets wearing Easter costumes or bunny ears. And it really cheered me up looking through all of them. One person got really creative and made a whole Easter photo shoot with their cat wearing an Easter bonnet, and they placed the cat inside an Easter basket, and it had like confetti in it and eggs and chocolate bunnies and all that stuff. It was hilarious, and it's kind of funny that the cat just let their owner do that. My cat would definitely let me do that. He would just like sit there patiently, but it takes a special kind of cat to just let you dress it up and sit it somewhere. So I don't know why I didn't think of that myself. I should have done a little photo shoot with my cat Louie. But oh well, there's always next time. Okay, now let's talk about birthdays. Does anybody have a birthday coming up? And you're really bummed because it's during quarantine? Well, yes, that is a bummer, but you can definitely make the most of it. There's a whole section on Twitter dedicated to ideas on how to throw a birthday party during lockdown. Most of it is from the Los Angeles Times, but a lot of people kind of chimed in and gave their 2 cents as well. But here we go. So first, you start out, you send a nice little Evite or Zoom invitation to people that you want to virtually celebrate with you. You pick a time and a date, not a place, because hopefully it's just in your house. And you also need to send out clear instructions on how to successfully join, because not everyone may know how. And then when they try and don't succeed, they could just give up or assume you're too busy to help them. And then that's one less person at your party for a silly little reason. So instructions are good. And then along with this virtual invitation, you can make it even more fun by creating a theme. You could make it super simple and have a pajamas themed party and demand everybody to show up on Zoom wearing their greatest jammies. Or you could be really extravagant and have like a prom theme or, something where people need to dress up and it'll kind of give them an excuse to look nice and do their hair and put some makeup on. Maybe some people need that. I mean, I felt great when I put mascara on the other day for Easter. Or you could even just do something like assign each person a different color, and then they have to wear only that color. So then when the screen comes on with all of your Zoom participants, it will be like really colorful. And then the birthday person or the guest of honor could wear maybe white or all of the colors combined. And for of-age people, a fun thing to do would be to try out new cocktail recipes together. Either all of you mix and try the same one at home, or have it kind of be like a free-for-all and have each person suggest a new cocktail recipe so you learn something new. And if you're really fancy, then you could use like a virtual party planning service. They have those now. And these companies, they'll send party supplies straight to each of your guests' door. So you can go on and kind of pick out what you want and put in your guest addresses, and then it'll just send a little party pack to them. That's so cool. So you could pick out like fun wigs or sunglasses and maybe even like a little drink to go in matching glasses that you could all drink out of together, and then have a little party gift, perhaps like a lotion or a candle or something like that. So then you can all mess around with the same little stuff while you're on Zoom together, and then it will also be like a fun keepsake for your guests to receive, and they'll be able to remember your coronavirus birthday for forever. And a company that does stuff like this is called Kiki Kit, Kiki Kit, if you're interested and want to check it out. And if you know someone who has a birthday coming up, but they haven't planned anything, you can still plan a surprise virtual party for them. So just send the invite to more of their friends, let them know it's a secret, exchange ideas, talk about it, and then when the day comes, bam, reach out to the birthday person and have them connect. And it's not like they're going to be busy or out of town or something. They're just going to be sitting at home. And I'm sure they would really appreciate a little surprise and pick me up from their friends on lockdown to show them that their birthday was not forgotten. And it's also just a fun excuse to get all the friends together and hang out over Zoom and check in with each other. Okay, after the break, I'm going to continue with the lockdown birthdays and give some ideas for people who have younger kids. So stay tuned.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hey there, I'm talking about ideas for throwing a lockdown birthday party. I was just talking about surprise Zoom parties and theme parties for adults. So now let's talk about teens and kids. What can they do to make a virtual party fun since, well, they don't drink alcohol? As for teenagers, they can all stream a movie together at the same time. Like they can all log into an extension and be watching a movie seriously like right at the same time. Like if somebody needs to pause it and use the restroom, then it'll pause it for everybody. And also they can all see each other and chat about it too in real time, like they're in the same room watching it together. So this would be fun to have like a movie night just in general, or do a movie night birthday and sit down with some popcorn and soda and watch the latest, coolest movie. Or a lot of teenagers lately have been getting together and learning a TikTok dance over Zoom. And that could be a fun activity too that also gets your body moving. As for younger kids, there are actually actors that you can hire to come on video chat with the kids dressed as their favorite character. So it's really similar to having Batman or something like that show up at a birthday party, but instead it's Batman showing up virtually. But either way, I am sure the kids would love to see and talk to Batman in any setting. Or if you'd like the kids to have a more hands-on type of thing, then you can send each of the guests like a little Play-Doh or Lego kit, all of the same kind, that the kids can all build together virtually over the computer. So the parent or whoever can make a model for them to follow, and then all the kids just kind of do their best and try to mimic the model, and it gives them a goal, and it's fun for them and a bit educational. And while I was researching all this stuff, I came across a Twitter user's thread who had recently attended this virtual Zoom party that had a scavenger hunt. So the user went on to explain that with the right structure, it can be super, super fun. She said there were about maybe 15 to 20 people in the Zoom call, and they all brought their A game. They were super positive, had great energy. So that helped. That was kind of first and foremost. You got to go into this stuff with a good attitude because, we're all trying our best here. Besides that, there was actually a really well thought out activity for them all to participate in. So it was this giant scavenger hunt in all of their apartments. So someone helping plan the party came up with a list of items that everyone would be sent off to find in their apartment or house or wherever they are. So the facilitator would name the item and then give the players 45 seconds or so to find it and then hurry back and hold it up to the camera. So they started with easier items like a mug with writing on it, or like a teaspoon of sugar or a teaspoon of flour. And then it got like harder and harder with more obscure items. And those who couldn't do it in the time allotted, or the people who didn't have the item, they were eliminated. And they were still on the call. Like, it's not like they were like X'd out, like, bye. No, they were still there. They were just out, so then they could watch. And then eventually they dwindled it down to a few people. And then they needed tiebreakers because they ran out of items to come up with. They weren't expecting this many people to tie. So that's when the eliminated people came back in, and they were part of the game again by suggesting things until there was like a clear winner. The eliminated people came up with ideas, and they were like, okay, everybody go find this, until it came down to one person who had it and did it in the right amount of time. And then at the end, this was funny, no matter who won or lose, the facilitator made everybody go and pour themselves a shot of their favorite liquor in 45 seconds. And then they all came back and cheers together and took down their shot. And how fun is that? That sounds like a good little Zoom party if you ask me. So if you have any birthdays coming up or just want to do something fun with your friends, then definitely consider coordinating a scavenger hunt because it sounds very entertaining. Okay, and one more fun birthday thing. And this time it's from NASA. So NASA has a space telescope called Hubble. And Hubble floats around and takes a bunch of cool pictures of space. And this year, the Hubble is turning 30 years old. Woohoo! And to celebrate, NASA launched a website where you can see a photo of space that the Hubble took on your birthday. And it is so freaking cool. I'm obsessed with it. I've been looking up all my friends' birthdays, all my family's birthdays, and I'm so excited to see every single picture, and it's fun to see what everybody I care about's pictures look like on their birthdays. So I made mine my phone background. That's how much I love it. So what you do is you go to nasa.gov, and you hover over, and kind of towards the top left, there's a little spot that says missions. It's the missions tab. So you hover over it, and then a drop-down menu will come up that says Hubble Space Telescope. So you click on that, and then you just look down the page, and you can find the birthday thing. So once you click on that, then there's another drop-down, and you can put your birth month and your birthday, and it will generate what the Hubble saw in space that day. It doesn't have a year option, though, so it just kind of picks a year for you. I'm assuming it's like the best picture of all the years it's taken. I'm not sure. But oh my goodness, people, it is so cool. But I love space, everything about space. I love staring at the moon and the stars, so maybe I'm exaggerating. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. It's pretty freaking cool. In my space birthday picture, I have a galaxy of stars, and I even have an asteroid trail. And one of my brothers is a picture of Mars, and then one of my other brothers is a close-up of Jupiter's red spots. It's super awesome. It looks like a Van Gogh painting or something. And my cousin's is of a big, bright black hole. It is so cool. So all these pictures, they definitely vary, and you should check yours out. And it also gives you kind of a little snippet of what it is, because obviously if you're looking at something like a black hole, you're not really going to know what it is. So there's like a little description, and it will tell you. That's how I knew that I had an asteroid trail on mine. I was like, what the heck is that? And then I read the description, and it said it. Okay, and also April 11th was just the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13, which was a, I guess, failed mission to the moon. There was an explosion on the aircraft, and they weren't able to land on the moon and had to immediately come back to Earth. All of the astronauts survived, thank goodness. And it's crazy because if the explosion happened earlier, they wouldn't have had enough oxygen and power to return to Earth. But if it had happened later, then they could have been in lunar orbit and wouldn't have been able to get back. So if there was going to be an explosion, that was a pretty good time for it to happen. I cannot imagine the fear they must have felt so alone up there in space when they hear something explode in their aircraft. And one of the astronauts said he looks out the window and sees this gaseous thing coming out of that's just crazy. But it's pretty awesome that they got back to Earth safely, and they still got to experience being in space, and they got really very close to the moon's surface. So they looked out the window and could see the moon, which was also kind of probably frustrating because that was their whole mission, was to get to the moon. And then they got so close, but then couldn't quite make it all the way there. And yeah, so the reason I bring this up is because of the 50th anniversary. And I thought it was pretty cool because NASA hosted a Q&A type of thing on Twitter. And it was really awesome. You know, anybody could just go on there and ask them a question about it and they'd answer it for you. All right, so coming up next, I am going to talk about that new Tiger King episode that dropped on Easter Sunday. So I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey, I'm back. I was just talking about a virtual scavenger hunt that you can do over Zoom with your friends, just in general or for a birthday party. And then I mentioned how you can go on nasa.gov to look up your space picture that happened on your birthday and how cool it is, and that I really highly suggest it. So our next topic is Tiger King. So the new episode came out on Easter. A lovely family show. Just kidding. So this final episode was not like the other ones. It was more of a where are they now type of thing. And everybody was socially distanced and interviewed through a computer in their own place. It was hosted by Joe McHale, who is the star of NBC's show Community. So it was a pretty smart career move for Joe to do this. It brought attention to him for sure. And it was the most watched special on Netflix in the US, even without Joe Exotic or Carol Baskin even appearing in it. So this guy definitely got great exposure. Joe Exotic is serving his 22-year prison sentence, and Carol Baskin is full of rage over her portrayal in this docuseries. I didn't know this, but yeah, she is ticked off. If you go to her website, bigcatrescue.org, there is an entire part of the site completely dedicated to refuting Netflix's show about it all. And it is long. You gotta scroll for a very long time to read it all. And it's all in small font too. So like, even if it were in like 15-point font, it would still take a while. And this is in like 10-point font. The woman did the absolute most. She took all this time to refute and defend every single thing critics have said toward her. And she even responded to people who have emailed her, just like regular people who have watched the show. She put in there like, oh, this person emailed me this, and would have this whole explanation for it. Listen, Carol, you can't respond to all the haters. She even talked about the disappearance of her former husband, Don Lewis. She talks about the meat grinder even, and the van at the airport, Costa Rica, everything. She says people were lying in their interviews, and she is just super over the top thorough with everything. The whole thing seems over the top. Like, pretty much obsessive. Like, she's trying way too hard to prove a point. It's a little bit fishy how the lengths that she went to on her website. It's crazy. But I guess I'm not in her shoes. She must feel horrible. Her entire world got turned upside down because of this documentary. She's getting even more hate mail and even more death threats. And the entire internet hates her. And when the internet hates you, that's really, really tough. People are ruthless on there behind a screen. But she's definitely a strange, off woman. Not normal at all. Creepy lady. Anyways, back to this new episode that she refused to be a part of. So, it was a reunion episode, right? And we heard from Eric Cowie, the head zookeeper, Jeff and Lauren Lowe, the current owners of the zoo, John Reinke, the former manager of the zoo, Saf Safari, a former animal keeper, Joshua Dial, Joe Exotic's former campaign manager, John Finley, Joe's ex-husband, or one of them at least, and Rick Kirkham, the ex-producer of Joe's TV show. So all of these people essentially said that Joe is exactly where he should be and that he got what he deserves. Which is interesting because all of these people worked really closely with Joe for years. And literally not one of them is showing empathy for him. That's how terrible of a guy he was to everyone, especially the people closest to him and the people that he relied on. These people ran his zoo for him. And someone mentioned, well, I can't remember who, but somebody mentioned that Joe Exotic was actually terrified of the big cats. And I totally got that vibe from the documentary, and I don't know why. But they said it was ironic because they called him the Tiger King when he pretty much hated the cats and hated being around them because he was afraid of them. And the ones that he was around were really old or on tranquilizers or something just to get footage on camera of him being with them. And I picked up on that while I was watching it. However, something I did not pick up on was that when Travis, Joe's other husband, shot himself, it was a complete accident. What? I was under the impression it was an intentional suicide. That whole situation is horrible, especially how Josh, the campaign manager, was there and looking him in his eyes when he accidentally shot himself. Josh hasn't been able to afford to go to therapy, and of course, Joe didn't help him out at all. So I was under the impression it was a suicide and that Travis was manic and messing around with the gun because of his manic episode, and he was pointing it at Josh, pointing it at himself, and he totally knew what was about to happen, so he was acting deranged and manic before he did it. And I also thought this because right before this happened, the docuseries had shown Travis really upset, punching a trailer, talking about how depressed and upset he was and how Joe never listens to him or any of his feelings and how he feels trapped there. And then at one point he said, "This is my last cigarette before I die." But I guess that could have been way before the accident actually happened and the producers could have just edited it that way. But regardless, I totally thought Travis meant to commit suicide. But In this episode, it was revealed more clearly, in my opinion, that it was a total accident. Josh described it as Travis messing around, saying, the gun, it won't fire without a clip. And he was pointing it at Josh, and Josh was like, get that thing out of my face, stop pointing a gun at me. And Travis was like, no, man, it won't fire without a clip, see? Put it to his head, pulled the trigger, and unfortunately, there was a round left in the chamber, and he shot and killed himself right in front of Josh. And Josh described seeing it in Travis's eyes once he pulled the trigger. Like, he said that he could see in his eyes that Travis knew he made a mistake, and then all of a sudden he was just gone. That is horrible and tragic. Joe turned people insane. How terrible for poor Travis, who was probably on meth and drugs and just desperate and depressed and trying to find thrill and wanted to get out of there and mess around, and now he's dead. And how absolutely devastating for Josh to have seen it all. That's awful. I mean, he was just going about his day, and then all of a sudden, he just watched somebody shoot themselves. And now he suffers from PTSD, of course, and he's still not over it. I don't know how he could be over it, especially without therapy, like he said. And I watched this last episode with my parents and my cousin Sammy, and it was interesting because both Sammy and I had the same thoughts. Like, we didn't realize that Travis shooting himself was an accident. From the documentary, we had both thought that it was a suicide. But my parents, on the other hand, both caught on, I guess, and knew that it was an accident. But my dad had listened to the podcast before the docuseries came out, and in the podcast, they were very clear it was an accident. So that's why my dad knew, and then he probably told my mom. I'm not sure. Okay. But on a positive note, John Finley, Joe's other ex-husband, looks like he is doing phenomenal. He got a whole new set of veneers, a whole new set of teeth, and he just looks great. He was wearing a shirt the whole time. It was good to see that he's making a positive improvement. So if you haven't yet, go check out that new episode. It's kind of nice to see where people are now, and it's also kind of nice to see how much more comfortable they are to talk about things and be in front of the camera without Joe around. There was a little bit of a difference to me. Okay, so coming up next, I'm going to be diving into the latest with coronavirus. So I will be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Again, I was just discussing the reunion episode of Tiger King that was released this past Sunday. We heard from some key figures, but we did not hear from Doc Antle. And I wonder why, because that guy sure does love attention and being praised. It's very creepy. He basically runs a cult full of vulnerable young women who he barely lets rest, and he pays them like $100 a week for really hard work, and they aren't allowed to leave, and they have to refer to him as their godlike leader or something. It's really very strange. He just brainwashes all these young women. And not to mention, it's rumored that he kills his unneeded tigers. Like, he runs out of room and he has baby tigers, and that's what makes the money because people want to go in and pet them. But once he gets no use out of them and they start to grow up, he kills them in a gas chamber, which is so very cruel. I mean, that's not, oh my gosh, that's how you know that he's just a freaking monster. So the fact that he didn't appear in this reunion episode is even a bit more suspicious. So instead of putting all of your hate toward that B. Carol Baskin, save some for Doc Antle too, because he is not excellent. They should definitely be investigating him as well, I think, because something is not right there. Alrighty. Now let's dive into coronavirus. So my mom and I did a big grocery run before Easter and really stocked up so we don't have to go for a while. And upon returning home, we spent an hour wiping down and cleaning all of the groceries before putting them away. It was a huge pain in the butt, but we thought, you know what, it's better to be safe than sorry. But afterwards, I took to Twitter to see if other people were doing the same thing when they got home from the grocery store and wiping everything down. And then I found an article talking about it. So while the risk of bringing the virus home with your groceries is there, it's very, very low. So let's say someone with the virus, they would have to sneeze or cough on that exact milk carton that you're getting, or at least touch their mouth or nose and then touch it. And then from that transfer, the droplets would be even less on the milk carton. Then it'd be in that one spot on the carton. Then you would have to come along and you would have to touch that same exact milk carton that they had sneezed on in the same spot where the droplets are. Then you'd have to, in turn, touch your face or something immediately after that. And anyways, you're not supposed to be touching your face while you're out, so that shouldn't be a problem. But then you'd have to bring that same carton all the way home, and by then the droplets would most likely be so dispersed that it wouldn't be enough to infect you. However, it's still a possibility. It's just a low possibility, but it's still there. So I'm going to keep wiping down my groceries just to be safe. But I mean, my mom and I were really going at it, like rigorously wiping everything down, item by item. So maybe next time we'll just give things a quick swipe and wipe and be done, and we should be good. And also, definitely don't wear your shoes in the house. It is absolutely imperative you take off your shoes, because if somebody sneezes or coughs, the virus, it's going to end up on the ground, and then you could step on it. So it's way more likely for you to step on the virus than for you to pick it up off a milk carton. And of course, I mean all products. I've just been using the milk carton as an example. Because most people, if they sneeze, I mean, normal people, they're not going to sneeze on produce. You know, they're going to sneeze into their elbow or at least sneeze not on stuff, and then the remnants are going to fall into the ground. So if anything, then your shoes are going to have it. So definitely, you don't want to drag that into your house, so take those puppies off before you step inside. And if you want to be extra safe, then I'd even say to take off your top layer, like your jacket, and keep it in a bin outside. So you only put it on when you're leaving, and then you don't track anything in the house. And then also, say you want to wash that outside jacket, if you're doing laundry on anything that you wore outside, then wash it on hot, because the water being hot is going to kill the virus more effectively. And you need to remember to clean your doorknobs almost daily and wipe off your laptop, your computer, the keyboard, stuff like that regularly. And also, if you're out of disinfectant, then you can make some at home. So just do like a third of a cup of bleach and mix it together with a gallon of water, and that works just like your over-the-counter disinfectant. And also, if you're going to make hand sanitizer, then again, it needs to contain at least 60% alcohol. So you can't make hand sanitizer with vodka because vodka is usually like 40% alcohol, 50% at the very most. And if it's not at least 60%, then it's not really effective. Okay, coming up next, I'm going to talk about nursing homes and also all of these storms that are happening in the South.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hey there, I was just talking about tips for bringing home groceries and how to keep your home clean throughout all of this. Alright, nursing homes have been really having a hard time with coronavirus. According to USA Today, in an article that I saw floating around Facebook, more than 2,300 nursing homes around the nation have coronavirus, and more than 3,000 residents of them have died. That is so sad. And the numbers are actually much higher because 6 states didn't even participate in this study, including Florida, which is old people central, and some states only gave partial data or didn't even agree to participate fully in it. So the numbers are probably more than 2,300 nursing homes, which is terrible. Nursing homes are becoming kind of like a whole crisis of their own now. And what's just absolutely horrific is that in New York, where the outbreak is so bad right now, and so many people are dying, there are a few nursing homes in New York that are having to leave dead bodies in their beds until they figure out a place to put them. They don't have their own morgues or anything, and the regular morgues are completely overwhelmed right now. So these nursing homes were starting to put the bodies in the basement, but then that got full, and oh my gosh, it's just... I read an article from the New York Post where a nursing home staff person was saying how it's so sad to be taking blood from someone in the nursing home and then the person in the bed next to them is dead. That is horrible. That is so terrible. And these people, they're living in such close proximity to one another, and they can't really care for themselves, so it's spreading like wildfire, especially because these people are so vulnerable. They're older, so they can get ill so easily, and they can't just up and wash their hands whenever they want and, oh, I touched something, better wash my hands. They can't just do something like that. They have to rely on someone else to do that stuff for them, and it's just impossible. Because there's so many of them, you don't have your eyes on them 24/7. I mean, you don't know what. Oh gosh, it must be so stressful over there in those nursing homes, anywhere, in any nursing home with this going on. And there was also talk all over Twitter about how in New York, they're building mass graves for deceased coronavirus victims. And this is true, but it's only half true. These mass graves on Hart Island, right off the coast of the Bronx, have been around for 150 years, and they're used to bury people who are unclaimed or unidentified. But now there's so many of those people and nowhere to put bodies because of this pandemic that they're having to build more and more of these mass graves. It's crazy and it's so horrible. These people, they're still humans. They're human beings. They were living, breathing people, and they're just being dumped. But I mean, there's no other choice right now. And the world is, I don't know, I just have like 10 existential crises a day. And what about this? Just when we think things can't get any worse, we remember natural disasters. Like the torrential storms happening in the South right now. From Texas to South Carolina, there were reports of over 40 tornadoes. 40. And over 31 people have died so far, and that number is climbing. And radar data from the Weather Service is saying that some of these tornadoes that were in Mississippi, where a lot of devastation was, a lot of these tornadoes were tornadoing for over an hour. They were on the ground for over an hour, and they tracked over 100 miles. My brain can't even comprehend that. And someone on Twitter whose username is @BRosner85 tweeted a picture of a literal house, like an entire house that was uprooted and landed somewhere else. His tweet said, "Wow, this house was picked up and moved into the middle of the road during severe storms in Upson County, Georgia." It was crazy. It was just a house, and it was in the middle of the street. It seemed like the Wizard of Oz or something. People's roofs have been blown off. Trees have crushed homes. It's a huge mess. And on top of it, these communities are also dealing with coronavirus. What about the people who have been displaced from their homes due to these storms? Where do they go? It's not like they can just bunk up with their neighbors, or everyone's supposed to be social distancing. Everything's closed. It's scary. And I talked to my family in Ohio on Easter, and they said that their basement flooded from torrential rain. And I have a lot of friends in Kentucky from college, and I've seen their posts on Snapchat of all these crazy storms, like lightning just lighting up the sky, booming thunder, downed lines. They had power outages, bunch of wind. It was crazy. Okay, all right, let's talk about something positive. So how about this? In Yosemite National Park, since it's been shut down since March 20th, wildlife has been absolutely flourishing there. The black bear population has quadrupled because they're all moving back into the park because they don't feel threatened anymore. And there's animals traveling in the middle of the roads to get around because there aren't really any cars around. Coyotes, bobcats, and the bears, they usually stay hidden deep in the edge of the forest, but they have been all out and about and taking over. And they've even been seen in Yosemite Village, which is a really small town that's located right next to the park. These animals, especially bears, are pretty intuitive about humans' whereabouts, so they kind of move through the shadows to get from one point to the next. But now that there aren't humans, they are totally just walking out in the open, and the park rangers are seeing things they've never seen before. One park ranger even said it's like the bears are throwing a party since there aren't any humans around. Yosemite can get extremely crowded with walls of cars and stop and go traffic, people everywhere. So this must be a nice little relief for the wildlife around there and the park rangers as well. You know, they don't have to keep up with all these people, making sure they're not starting fires and whatnot. So it's a nice breather for our national and state parks. And it's great that people are respecting the rules in Yosemite, because some people definitely are not in other places, like in Santa Cruz, where a group of 7 people were each fined a $1,000 $1,000 ticket for violating shelter-in-place rules. And they were ticketed outside of a 7-Eleven. I think they were kind of gathering there, getting some drinks. And none of these people were from Santa Cruz. They were visiting from Fremont. And the Santa Cruz Police Department has made it clear that they only want Santa Cruz residents in Santa Cruz right now. So I think they definitely wanted to make an example out of these people, especially because Santa Cruz is a really popular California destination with a lot of outdoor things to do. People go there to surf, go to the beach, go to the boardwalk, go hiking, go camping, go into the mountains, whatever. But you can't even do that right now. I mean, somebody traveling from there might bring it into their community, so they're really worried about that. So you're supposed to shelter in place in your own town. That's what the Santa Cruz PD was trying to hashtag shelter in place in your own town. You're really not supposed to be traveling around. So they wanted to make it very clear, and they punished these people with the maximum fine. They definitely made an example out of them. It's been all over the news. I've seen it. I just feel kind of bad for those people. I mean, geez, $1,000 each, because they probably are out and about because they lost their jobs and they have nothing else to do. So how are they going to pay for that? Okay, but coming up next, I'm going to talk about the Bachelor's new series, Listen to Your Heart.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey, welcome back. I was just talking about how rough nursing homes are across the nation right now with this pandemic and the storms in the South. Let's send a little prayer or good vibes their way. And I also mentioned some out-of-towners racking up $7,000 worth of fines for visiting Santa Cruz during shelter in place. All right, so let's now move on. The Bachelor just came out with a new series called Listen to Your Heart. I'm probably not going to watch it because it sounds like something I would hate, but some people might like it, so I'll talk about it. It's a spin-off of the classic reality show, The Bachelor, and it's going to consist of 20 musicians looking for love. I can't do it. I'm just going to read to you what Google says about it. Hold on. Okay. Uniting two of the most emotionally powerful forces in human life, music and love. 20 single men and women embark on an incredible journey to find love through music. Singing well-known songs, both individually and as couples, they look to form attractions through the melodies, find and reveal their feelings, and ultimately fall in love. The eligible bachelors and bachelorettes meet and explore their relationships while living together and going on dates that focus on music. Once the couples commit to each other, it's time to take their relationships to the next level. The harmony of the couples is tested through musical challenges, including live performances judged by some of the biggest names in the music business. The couples whose performances reveal their love and devotion get a chance to further their relationships until only one couple is left standing. I was trying to say it how they do it. Okay. So basically, to me, it sounds like a combination of The Bachelor and American Idol. And it's not just me. Social media has not been kind to it either. Everyone has been trashing the show and making fun of it for like the last 3 months, being like, ain't no way I'll watch that. Somebody said, nothing on God's green earth will make me watch that show. But then boom, quarantine, lockdown, pandemic. What else is there to watch? So people are so bored. Now they're like wanting to watch the show because they've watched everything else and now this is something new and dramatic. People are making hilarious memes about it. Like one of them was me when the preview first aired versus me on day 30 of quarantine when it actually comes out. And then they attached a picture, or the couple of pictures of that blonde girl tasting the soda when she likes it and then she doesn't, and then she likes it and then doesn't. And then someone also mentioned Jed, the musician contestant from Hannah Brown's season, who actually made it all the way through, and they got engaged at first before they broke it off because he's the worst. But he was accused of going on the show to only promote his music. So a lot of people are poking fun at Jed now, and they're saying like, wow, if Jed had only had the patience and waited for this show to come out, then it would have been his time to shine. And that is very true. Jed is the worst. But you know what's even worse? Is that I'm going to have to end up watching this show just so I'm up to date on everything for this podcast, because it might blow up because there's literally nothing else to watch. So we'll see. Okay, and jumping gears here, but I just wanted to mention this because of my last podcast. I mentioned the Queen of England's address to the UK and Commonwealth about coronavirus and how it was her 5th address ever. Well, she also gave a little Easter message. And she wasn't in this one, like it wasn't a video of her, it was just her voice. It was like audio over a video of a burning candle, kind of like in a church setting. There was some religious pictures in the background. And it was posted to the royal family's Instagram page and all their social media pages. And a little excerpt, she said, was, quote, "This year, Easter will be different for many of us, but by keeping apart, we keep others safe. But Easter isn't canceled. Indeed, we need Easter as much as ever." End quote. The Queen is turning 94 years old this month. Wowee. I hope she makes it to 100. But it just kind of goes to show that this is really serious. These are very serious times. The Queen really doesn't make public announcements like this ever, and we've had 2 within the last couple of weeks. So that should tell you she's really trying to bring her people together. And she even had a coronavirus scare because, you know, Prime Minister Boris Johnson had, or still has, the virus. He's recovering right now. But she had just been with him right before he got diagnosed. So she had a scare as well. But I guess that she didn't catch it, thank goodness. But speaking of Boris Johnson, he's doing better now. He was able to make a statement and talk to the press, and he really thanked NHS for saving his life. And, you know, that's awesome. I'm very glad to see that he's doing well. A lot of people might not like him, but it doesn't matter. You shouldn't wish ill health on anybody. So I'm very glad that he has pulled through, and I'm sure that gave a lot of people hope over there because, I mean, that's their leader. Okay, but that's all for tonight. Again, with the coronavirus, you know the drill. Sneeze into your elbow. Keep your hands washed. Wear a mask when you're in public now. I know that wasn't a thing before, but it is now. So we all have to get into the habit of taking a mask with us when we leave the house. All right, but thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Once again, I'm your host, Kayla Moeller. And if you could do me a favor and subscribe to the show or write a little review, that would be helpful. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks, guys, and have a wonderful night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.